It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 67 today. Come on in. The water is fine. The hot tub is going full blast. The grill is going full bore. Fruits and vegetables off to the right. Your favorite cold drinks off to the left. Hot drinks inside. And as always, we put the desserts that you brought along. We put those right by the door so you cannot miss them. When you walk in, when you walk out, you pass by the desserts to encourage you to consume them so they are not left for Lisa Monroe and I to consume, and or Jennifer, because we don't want to put on 200-300 pounds by the next show. So help us out here. Just dive in and make yourself at home. We have plenty of extra towels in case you don't have enough. We have extra suntan lotion. We have extra chairs. We've provided it all for you. The only thing you have to do is come in and get your clothes off and enjoy clothes-free living for all the right reasons. How is that for a plan? Can you imagine just having that kind of life every single day? Well, some people do. Some people live at resorts, and that is their life. They wake up with no clothes on, they go to bed with no clothes on, and they have no clothes on in between. Wouldn't it be great if we could all live that way, as we call it, clothes-free living for all of the right reasons? We were really struck this past week. Lisa Monroe and I will talk about it a little bit in the segment coming up. People wrote in to let us know how they listen to the show and when and where they are. Everybody who wrote in said they listened to the show while nude. And we appreciate that. It just brings us closer together as a community. Sometimes you can't. If you're driving to work or if you're in your office with headphones on, we understand. It's not mandatory to be clothes-free to listen to the show, but it does make the experience better. It enhances it for everybody, we believe. So we appreciate those of you who took time to write in, and we appreciate you being here every single Saturday morning. For 67 straight weeks, we've gotten together with you, enjoying the naturist life, the nudist life, the naked life, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. And we do want to take a moment to remind you, yes, brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. You can find it on Spotify right away. It is shoveled out to the other podcast platforms right away as well, but we are not in control of that. So when it hits there, it hits there. But guaranteed you can find us on Spotify every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We are continuing to put the YouTube previews on YouTube every Wednesday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. We post those on Twitter as well. So you get a 6 a.m. Wednesday for the preview, then a few days later you get the whole show on Saturday. We are also posting full shows now on YouTube. We have all of them done here, and we'll be posting a mass post fairly soon to get them all on there. And then each week, we will update that with the new show. A lot of our listeners wrote in and said, why aren't you guys on YouTube? I'd prefer YouTube. Well, okay. You asked for it, you got it. Just like that old car commercial. Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. You asked for it, you got it. And so we're doing that for you as well. We're on Twitter. You can find us there. You can write to us, nakedforevermore@gmail.com. And, of course, visit our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com. Well, on today's show, in just a couple of moments, we'll have part 2 of my interview with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi, born and raised in the UK, lives in Spain, promoting yoga all over the world, promoting naked yoga all over the world. So part 2 with Matt coming up shortly. The featured interview today will be with SARAH Taylor, a Naturist Trans Woman from the UK. It used to be David, was married to a woman, and now she is Sarah. And she also appeared on the show in Great Britain called Naked Attraction, naked dating show. Not naturism, but it is naked. And she's appeared on that show twice as what they call the picker, the one who chooses the person with whom to go on a date. Appeared as David when she was a man, and then appeared again as Sarah, now that she's a trans woman. How many people can make that claim to fame? Probably, maybe only one, and that's Sarah Taylor. So part one of my interview with Sarah Taylor today, part two next week, and of course we will have the terrific Lisa Monroe coming up right after we hear from Matt. Just a reminder, we are the official podcast for the American Association for Nude Recreation. You can become a member today simply by going to aanr.com and signing up and becoming a member. Now let's get to part two of my interview with Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. We're talking to Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi, originally from the UK, now living in Spain. So Matt, you're out there all over the place. You have online classes, you do retreats, you fly all over the place. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing out there and how people can get a hold of you and become part of your community where they can learn yoga from you.
So the Bearded Naked Yogi started and continues as an exclusively online naked yoga platform that people are able to book into the live classes. And over the years that this has been happening, we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. The community of people from all over the globe has grown exponentially every year, which is incredible. I love meeting people from all over, and it's wonderful. In a class, you can have Australia, America, most of the European countries, Canada, sometimes South America. It's just a wonderful, wonderful vibe. And off the back of that, we then decided to start hosting in-person retreats in various locations. And everyone likes the sun. Everyone likes to get together. There's the aspects of social nudity. Obviously, these are predominantly naked retreats that we host. And the whole philosophy of the Bearded Naked Yogi has grown and it's grown and it's grown. The people can access and find out more information by visiting the website, thebeardednakedyogi.com. From there, they can find their way to the blogs. They can find their way to the YouTube channel, which has almost 100 free meditation practices on there that people can enjoy. They can find out all of the information about the retreats, and they can also sign up to our newsletters as well. And those newsletters are written not just by myself, they're sometimes written by students to share their stories with the world. They're shared by the other teachers as well, sharing their thoughts, their philosophies, their points of view on all of this. So we really try to, the Bearded Naked Yogi is not just about Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. It is very much about the community that enables the Bearded Naked Yogi to do what he does, if you like.
Okay. Now, you also have on your website, you can click on for clothed yoga. So you're not totally opposed to that if somebody's more comfortable with that?
No, I'm not opposed to it at all. And I think someone else once asked me this question as well. And I said, fundamentally, and I'm speaking as a yogi here, if you want to practice yoga, let's practice yoga. My own philosophy, my own way of practicing, my own, the majority of my teaching practice is centered around the teaching of yoga without clothes on. Right. But I'm not going to deny my friends and the people that I know that want to practice with me that don't want to wear clothes. That's how that side of things has all sprung up. And that's growing steadily as well. I think when a lot of people see the name, The Bearded Naked Yogi, it sparks a bit of interest and it sparks a little bit of curiosity. And I think it's a wonderful thing that people have that chance to be part of the TBNY community at large. They can learn about the philosophy, learn about themselves, enjoy the practice. And I'll tell you an interesting thing as well, Frank, is there is a little bit of crossover there. We've had people come from the clothed side of it who've then come over and enjoyed the naked classes and retreats as well. Yeah. Just spreading the word, my friend, spreading the word.
Well, I've always been a big proponent of clothes-free exercise because any article of clothing that you have on at all, a shirt, shorts, whatever, it will restrict your movement, maybe to 1 degree, maybe a whole bunch more, but there is some restriction there. So get rid of it, get out there and exercise. And like you said, exercising with clothes on is better than no exercise at all, but the best of all is clothes-free.
Exactly. I'm a big one. Not only do I study an awful lot of Eastern philosophy, I also study a lot of Western philosophy as well. And I often say, train like the Greeks. That's the thing. Clothes off. I don't go so far as rubbing olive oil all over myself and running around in the midday sun, but watch this space, Frank. Watch this space.
Well, I remember we talked about you, not by name, but Carrie Jane, the BHH Naturist Resort in the Canary Islands.
Love her.
Yeah, she's terrific. We interviewed her last last fall, and she was about to host, as it turns out, you and about 10 guys. And she said, it's going to be a difficult week. I'll have 10 very good looking, fully naked men I'll have to take care of all week. And of course, the ladies around here, well, where do we sign up for this job? That's almost unfair. But there are, just having fun with it. And that's how we should do it. Clothes free living for all the right reasons, having fun, getting in shape, practicing yoga, learning how to breathe, and learning how to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I kind of often think with a lot of all of this, with the wider world of naturism, the widest experience of yoga, and the personal experience of the individual as well. Let's not take this so seriously.
Right.
Let's not take ourselves so seriously in all of this. If you want to hang out with no clothes on, rock on. If you don't feel comfortable doing that and you want to wear a swimsuit or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. I don't think, I think there's a wonderful phrase by one of my favorite philosophers, Alan Watts, and I can't remember it quite exactly, but it's very much, in this world, to convince anyone of something is a fallacy within itself. There's a lot to be said for wooing people. Don't preach, woo people. Explain why something is wonderful. Show them what a wonderful time you're having. Yeah. Maybe, if it's their path, they'll take a few steps with you.
Very well said. Well, we appreciate having you on today. It's been Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. This has been a short interview. We'll have you back, Matt, probably in the beginning of 2025 or so for the full hour interview. But great to have you, and people can find you again. Put your website out there, please.
It is thebeardednakedyogi.com.
All right, there it is. So find him, sign up for classes or a retreat. And Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi, go out there and have a great clothes-free day. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Frank. This has been amazing, and I will look forward to speaking to you again. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, you too. The terrific Matt, the Bearded Naked Yogi. We appreciate all of his time on these last two shows. We'll have a full-length interview with Matt coming up at the end of the year and into 2025 as well. And you can find him at thebeardednakedyogi.com. And again, we thank Matt for all of his time on these last two shows. You are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 67 today. And I don't know about you, but do you hear music sneaking in on us ever so slightly? We're trying to have a conversation here, but I hear music. What could it possibly mean? Oh, yes, now I remember. It's time for the great, the terrific, the one-of-a-kind, the completely over-the-top, fully clothes-free and fully smiling, the terrific Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the completely clothes-free now, the completely smiling always, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I am absolutely terrific this morning. I kind of like being naked. So
that is great to hear. But, I said clothes-free now because when you first walked in, you had clothes on, and it hit me. I haven't seen you with clothes on in a long time. So what was that all about? You just didn't have time to get them off before you came in the studio? What's going on?
I might had something to do earlier, so I, came in, just didn't bother to disrobe too quickly, and so rushed into the studio, and here I am. Ripping things off is my normal pattern.
Well, that will be enough of that egregious behavior, please.
My goodness, all right. I guess Frank, the sheriff, has spoken. The naturism sheriff.
That's right. Clothes-free broadcasting for all the right reasons. That's what we do around here, right? Everything.
That's exactly what we do around here.
Okay. I wanted to tell you a story, and our listeners this story, something that happened to me recently at the grocery store. I have not shared this with you yet, Lisa, so your reaction, so the listeners know, your reaction will be genuine. You don't have any clue what's coming other than the grocery store, which I just mentioned to you for the first time.
Yes.
Shopping a few weeks ago in the vegetable section. They have everything there. Tomatoes, potatoes, apples, oranges, you name it. Everything is there. Mm-hmm. And there was this woman shopping, and she had on a pair of shorts and a T-shirt. And she was probably maybe 20 feet away from me at the closest at any one moment, but she was walking toward me and then turned so I could see the front of her. And on her T-shirt, it says, "I love to fish naked." And of course, the word naked, capital letters, bold print, really big font. And I thought, oh, it's so tempting to go say something to her, start a conversation. "Oh, you really like to fish naked? Are you a naturist?" And I thought, no, as a guy in a grocery store going up to a woman, no idea if she's married, single, has a boyfriend. So that's just a great way to get tossed out and never be allowed at the grocery store again. But what do you do with that? As a woman, you see another woman with a T-shirt on, "I love to fish naked." Do you just kind of smile and do your thing? Or do you say, "Hey, I like your shirt"? What would you do?
I probably, if I was going to say anything, would just, either walk past her or just stop for a moment and say, "Me too," and let it go at that. I can see for a guy, it might be difficult to walk up to a strange woman, but, you could have just said that in passing and kept going, but if you wanted to, but then she could have come back with the conversation if she wanted to, but no, that's kind of cool and kind of brave to wear that T-shirt. I like that.
Yeah, now we have a lot of listeners who have written into us. They do the same thing. They'll
Exactly.
wear some kind of a shirt that has the word nude or naked or naturist on it, and they just prance around town. Same thing with hats, baseball hat style. Mm-hmm. I think next time I'm going to say something, whether it's her or somebody else. It probably won't be her, but I think I'll just make a comment while I'm walking. Now, I won't stop and say, "Hey, nice shirt there, lady." That's overly done, but I might walk by and say, "Hey, I like your shirt, and we're believers as well," and just keep on walking. That might be as bold as I'm going to get, but I thought, okay, so there's at least one more in my town.
Yeah, certainly, and there are probably a whole lot more in your town. And, all those boats that leave out of the marina every day, never know where they're going and what they're going to be doing, and they may be fishing naked.
Well, a lot of them are. Not that I've seen them, but I know some who do that with great regularity. That I told the one guy, I said, "Why do you think I bought a boat? It's so I can be naked out on the water and do my thing." So I think a lot of boaters do that, but they don't do it, in the harbor or in the marina. So they're not just prancing around, but they put their clothes on, their suits, whatever. They go out in the middle of nowhere, clothes come off, and they have a great day. Nothing wrong with that at all, is it?
No, there isn't. And as you know, I am tan line phobic. I hate tan lines. So I always, if we went out on the boat, the second we were far enough away from anyone to really tell, it's like off the bathing suit came because I couldn't stand it. And it didn't come back on until we came back headed toward the marina. So yeah, I can attest to that being a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Whatever you do it clothes free if you can. And we never encourage people to be bold and walk down Main Street and say, "I'm me, I'm going to do me." Well, we don't encourage that. Some people do, and in many ways, hats off to them for taking that stance and making it easier for us. It's just not a thing that we do, right?
That's exactly right. And I certainly wouldn't walk up to a stranger, I don't think. And in any case, I mean, they could say a lot of things that they were into besides naked. And, there's just some things you walk away from and just take it as a wonderful coincidence and walk away. So, yeah, I would probably have done the same. I would just kept walking.
Yeah. Well, we got a bunch of responses to the question we asked on a recent show. Where are you when you listen to our show? Are you home? Are you at work? Are you inside the house, outside the house, gardening? What are you doing? Where are you? What are you doing? And what do you wear while you listen to our show? 100% of the respondents, and there were several, answered that they are nude when they listen to our show. Now, most of them are at home when they listen to our show. Several are driving around town, not down Main Street or Broadway in New York City, but out in the country. They're driving wherever they have to go, and they're nude, and they're listening to our show. But every single respondent said absolutely nude when they listen to our show. They do a variety of things. I mentioned driving, gardening, certainly, cleaning, sitting outside, having coffee in the morning. And people have their own day, I'm finding out. I sort of suspected this based on some previous responses. They have their own day set aside for when they listen to our show. Many fire it up right away, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern time on Spotify on Saturdays. Boom, the numbers start going up. People are clicking in. Other people, and especially on the other side of the world, they listen on Sundays. Some people wait till Mondays when they're driving to work, and they can be alone, probably not nude then, but they are listening. Other people another day, because it's maybe Monday they're driving to work with a friend. Tuesday they're alone. That's when they listen. So these shows are being listened to 7 days, 7 nights a week, which we already knew. But it's nice to know that just about everybody listens while nude when absolutely possible. So I thought I'd pass that along. Any comments on that?
I think it's wonderful that they are. I think it's wonderful they feel comfortable and kind of joining with the spirit of the show. Yeah. And I guess it kind of helps them validate who they are and be able to enjoy who they are, because they know there are lots of people like us. Yeah. I also had some emails and got the same response of people just say, love the show and watch it naked. And that's, it's about all you need to say. And, yeah. But I think it is a really good thing. And I think it's wonderful that people feel that comfortable in being able to be who they are when they listen.
Yeah. To me, that's the best way to listen. For a lot of reasons, if you can, if you're in an office with 100 other people in suits, ties, and dresses rule today, probably not the time to get nude. You might not have that job anymore, but otherwise, go for it. We got an email from one guy who said he listens to it fully nude, except while wearing a watch. Now, I mentioned that to you and to Jennifer, and you both cracked up, said, oh, no, that doesn't count. Tell him that doesn't count as being naked. If you have a watch on, sir, you're not naked. So I wrote back to him and I said, well, Jennifer and Lisa said, sorry, it doesn't qualify. Now, to me, as a man, that's okay. We understand time is important to us to be on time. But I put it out there. So you might want to reconsider, because you have the two women in the studio here who said, no, sorry, that guy's not naked. Go ahead and expound on that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think I love the fact that he said, I'm naked except for a watch. I mean, like he had to clarify it. I think that's what tickled Jennifer and me both, was that it was important to him to say, no, but I have a watch on. And so I think that's what prompted oh, no, he can't have a watch on. He must be taking the watch off. So, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I mean, people wear shoes, they wear hats, so it's okay. But it was hilarious the way he said it. I just it was just very endearing. I'm naked, but for a watch. Is that okay?
Can I write back and tell him it's okay, or is he still on your list?
Tell him we were just kind of having fun with his incredible little comment. So
I will let him know. Now, we only got one such email, so he probably knows exactly we're talking about him, but I'll send him an email anyway to clarify. So that's good news. You can be naked with a watch on. You still qualify as naked, according to Lisa.
Yeah, well, I'm the ultimate expert, apparently. No, I don't think I am in any way, shape, or form. Again, it comes back to, guys, just do what you want to do. Yeah. If you want to wear a watch, wear a watch. If you don't. It's no big deal.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we got an email from a gentleman in North Carolina. His first name is James, and he gave us permission to use his name. 2 paragraphs long. If you don't mind, can you read the first one?
I most certainly can. It says, hey, NNM family, just dropping back in for an update on my naturism journey. About over a month ago, I sent you all a message on my journey to discovering naturism in the podcast. In that message, I expressed how I didn't think that there were any other naturist nudists in my area, and Frank's response was, oh, there is. You probably just don't know them yet. And you were right, sir. I've been part of social naturist groups for over a year now, and a few weeks ago I discovered they had an event near me, a naked pool party. With it being just an hour away, I jumped on it with excitement, and let me tell you, that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I met so many great, like-minded people. It's like I finally found my home.
Well, he has suddenly become my personal favorite listener because of his one comment, and you were right, sir.
Well, let me also interject that thank you very much, because now you've created a monster, James, because he tells us that all the time, and he's not.
I am that easy. One compliment, you're our favorite listener for the day. So.
Yep, I noticed that.
All right, second paragraph. Since that pool party, I have now gone to about 5 nude events in my area with no plans of slowing down! Exclamation point. Just the other day, I brought in the first day of fall mostly naked. Another exclamation point, by the way. That morning, I went to an outdoor nude yoga session, and that afternoon to another naked pool party. Another exclamation point. I like this guy more and more.
He's fun.
Being naked on your own is great, but when you find a community to share this practice with, it is amazing. Yes, another exclamation point. It enhances the experience! Exclamation point. I'm looking forward to much more social nudity in the future! Exclamation point. In naked health, James! Exclamation point. I like this guy. Lots of exclamation points, lots of naked stuff. He's enjoying clothes-free living for all the right reasons, right?
He certainly is, and he's having fun with it, and it's wonderful that he kind of took what was said to him. Hey, there's probably a lot in the area you don't know, and he just made that move then to go and find out. And it's just wonderful to see that he's having this kind of fun with something he enjoys so much.
Yeah, I think, and this is only my personal thought, I have no scientific evidence. I think whatever you're into and wherever you live, you'll find other people into it. Let's say you're into Shakespeare and you live in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Well, there's no one to get together with Shakespeare. Well, you put a note up in the coffee shop. Hey, you want to start a book club? You're studying the plays of Shakespeare? You'd be surprised. You'll get some responses. Same with naturism. You think, well, I like to be naked, but wow, there's nobody around here who's naked. Oh, they are. They're not going to knock on your door and say, hey, don't know your name, want to get naked? No, that's very inappropriate. It's not going to happen. But they're out there. And if you reach out, they will come to you. And before you know it, like James, now he's living the life, social naturism, clothes-free living for all the right reasons with other people at events. So hats off to him, right?
Definitely hats off to him. And hats off to all of those people who kind of have come together and apparently are making this a very good experience for everyone. It doesn't seem to be, because social media, maybe you can meet people this way that have like interests, regardless of what it is in social media, but you never know who you're actually dealing with. And so it's really important to be able to have that physical contact, to that area familiarity and everything, and be able to expand on your likes that way. But good for James. I think it's wonderful.
Absolutely. And he didn't say whether or not he wears a watch, because we don't care. You approved nudity with a watch is still nudity.
Yes, with a watch, with shoes, with flip-flops. But, people wear running shoes when they're hiking. And so, we got to give them, and a hat. So it's okay. We'll forgive him.
All right. Well, very good. And Lisa Monroe, with that in mind, we must head for the hills. Go out there and have a great clothes-free week. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. You too, Frank. And hope everyone has a wonderful naked week.
All right. Sounds good. The terrific Lisa Monroe pops in here once a week for her segments, does all of our website work, does our Thursday meme for Twitter. But if she ever shows up again with her clothes on, we're going to send her to her room until she fixes her behavior. I think she heard me through the glass. I'll be in trouble after the show, but for now, you're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 67. And now part 1 of my interview with the very terrific SARAH Taylor, Naturist Trans Woman from the UK. We're headed over to the UK today to meet somebody who is very new to us at our Naked Nudists and Naturist Studios extravaganza. First of all, let me welcome her to the show, and then I will read from the email that she sent back in March of 2024 from the UK, SARAH Taylor. Good morning, SARAH. How are you today?
I'm absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Frank, and thank you for inviting me on the show.
Oh, you bet. Once we got your email, it's like, yeah, she's full of life and positivity about naturism. Let's get her on. And now that we've had a chance to talk before we hit the record button, you haven't really stopped smiling or laughing, have you?
I'm just so positive and insouciant. Yeah. Nothing stops me smiling. I'm always happy.
Yeah, well, yeah, it comes through very clearly. Okay, so let me go ahead and read this email, most of it anyway. You start off with, hello there. I have a slightly different story to tell about being naked. I've been a naturist since the age of 18. I'm now 56. Most of my life, I could not practice it as my wife wouldn't have anything to do with it. Once we parted very amicably 8 years ago, I was able to enjoy my passion, obviously being naturism. I know you're thinking, yeah, well, nice, but nothing new here. 6 years ago, I was a picker on Naked Attraction. That's a show we'll talk about in a minute. As 50-year-old David, 3 years ago, I transitioned as a female. 2 years ago, the transition was complete. I was featured in an article by Helen Berriman on trans and naturism. 2 months later, I was again a picker on Naked Attraction, only this time as a woman, 54-year-old Sarah. Last year, I bought a motorbike and did a tour of France and Spain, taking in 3 very different naturist sites. We'll hear about those. What a story. That's a whole lot of information in a short email. I said, yeah, let's get a hold of her. She sounds full of life, sounds happy, and you are. So let's just go at it from the beginning here. And, as our listeners know, we're not a sex show. We're not a sexual show. We don't delineate between gay, straight, trans, or whatever else might be out there that I don't know about yet. So we're going to focus mostly on how naturism has had a positive effect on you and has taken you through this. But before we get to all of that, let's just go through the beginning of your story. As a little boy, you had somewhat of an affinity for dressing in girls' clothes, right? Maybe just tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually remember very clearly when I was 6 years old, my best friend across the way was a girl, and we would often swap clothes, initially as me initiating it. And, at 6 years old, there's no sexuality involved in this. It was just purely because it felt right for me. When I was challenged by my parents about it, I was actually really upset to know that I would never have a female body. I was going to be a boy forever. And it was actually at the time really quite distressing.
I can imagine. So to you, this was totally normal and natural to put on girls' clothes. Your parents found you or caught you and said, hey, David, knock this nonsense off, basically, something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. And really they were so adamant about it. And you can understand this is the early 70s and they were probably quite right to do so. And so they were adamant. I completely blocked out any thoughts that actually I was genuinely a female inside a male body for really the rest of my life until, 3.5 years ago when things completely changed.
Okay, now I saw something in the article. I think it's the one that Helen Berriman wrote. There are differences, I think. I'm going to have you confirm or deny this. There are differences between people cross-dressing and transvestites and those who believe they were born the wrong sex. How did you know, or when did you figure out that's more about putting on girls' clothes? I want to be a darn woman or a girl. When did that come to be?
Yeah, absolutely. There is genuinely a big difference between cross-dressing and trans. Trans, you are generally, in my case, a woman inside a male body. Cross-dressing is much more of, I wouldn't say a kink, but more of just a flavor at the time, but you're still genuinely the sex you were born at the time. And so I completely suppressed it, but it was 3.5 years ago. And ironically, I was actually reading an American article about a transgender woman who used to be a male CEO of a company. And in there, she listed the 17 points that the American Association of Psychiatrists look for in a transgender person. And I thought, oh, this will be interesting. I'll just have a read, I'm sure I'm just a cross-dresser or something, just not normal. And to me, it wasn't normal. As I went through, of course, I ticked every box. And that was the point when I realized there was a almost certain chance that I was actually a transgender woman, which I certainly didn't want to be, but I am.
Okay. All right. So before we get to that, then I'm going to go back in time just a little bit. 2 items of interest. The first one, you became a naturist at age 18, you said.
Yes.
What was that all about? So you hadn't really hung around nude before, but suddenly at 18 you did. Tell us what the impetus was for going for it at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. So now this is a completely different to the transgender and the feeling of being female. Right. I have just always liked the idea of just being naked, and the few rare occasions I had the opportunity to do so, I just loved it. Now, there is a large local naturist site near where I lived, but they wouldn't accept people to go in on their own until they were 18. So I wasn't actually able to try naturism, nudism until I was 18. And I went there and I just loved it. I just loved the feeling of being naked in nature as I should be. It was a beautiful feeling. And like I say, this actually got nothing to do with being transgender. This was just my feeling of loving naturism.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed at all?
Absolutely not. No, always been the same, yes.
All right, and I'm guessing before the age of 18 in your home, that was greatly discouraged. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. My family were quite typical, not too conservative, but not exactly liberal. So nudity was definitely frowned upon. So there was no opportunity to express that.
More than frowned upon, probably forbidden.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Well, it's all the things. What would the neighbors say? Oh my God. And it's all about what will the neighbors say, which I've since learned is complete rubbish and means absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, the answer, to the question, what will the neighbors say? They'll say one of two things. Wow, looks like you're enjoying life today. Well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Or they might say, hey, mind if I join you? It's also possible to say, hey, if you don't mind, could you put up a covering when you're out in your pool? That hasn't happened to me yet, but I guess it's happened to other people. And you just go with it, right? You just
absolutely. Yeah. It is about, in many ways, with naturism and nudism, it's about finding compromise sometimes. If you feel like you may be, upsetting or aggravating someone else, you just find a way of compromising so you can still do what you do and they can do what they do and you find a middle ground. Compromise is everything.
Yeah, I agree. And, I've had this discussion with naturists before, nudists, close free living people. I want to be naked, by golly, and to heck with what they think. And my comeback, and first of all, I'm of the same ilk. I want to be naked all of the time, even when I go to the store or the post office or whatever, but you can't. I use the analogy, if you like to play your music really loudly, heavy metal or even classical or jazz, you just want a full blast. And you do that at 3 a.m, your neighbor's probably going to be upset. Like, hey, I'm trying to get some sleep. Could you turn the music down or not play it at 3 a.m? And so you'd have to come to some kind of a compromise or agreement. So probably naturism is no different than that, right? If you're dealing with a neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It is just about being sensitive to other people's feelings. We all have different beliefs and different values, and we need to respect it. The only time there's an issue is when people use their beliefs and values as a weapon against someone else to deliberately hurt or prevent someone. So, we all have our beliefs, we all have our values, but we can find compromise so that everyone is happy.
Yeah, very well said. So since your entry into this naturist resort at age 18, that's been your life in terms of naturism, whether it's resorts or at home or at the beach, you just, every chance you get, you're nude?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. So there are a few naturist beaches near where I lived. My best friend at the time was a guy, actually, still a really good friend of mine. And he would come with me, but he's not naturist. So he wouldn't strip, but I would. And it worked just really well. He respected me. I respected him. And yeah, every opportunity that I could, bear in mind, this is UK and it's flipping cold. It's always cloudy, wet and raining. So sometimes you're limited by your activities. I was able to do that. And then my job then took me to work in and around London, where the opportunities are actually significantly less. And soon after that, I then met my wife, who, as I said, was not very much against naturism. She just didn't want any part of it herself. Yeah. And so that's where it came to a stop, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was the other question I had for you. Now that you've mentioned, I'll just dive right in.
Go for it.
Yeah. So
just go for it.
You believed at some point in your life, I'm actually a woman and we'll deal with this at some point or maybe not, whatever. And then you went out and married a woman as a man. So you, a man named David, married a woman. How did all that come to be? Did you decide, well, to heck with it? People will just get upset with me if I announce what I think I am. I'll just marry a woman and live the so-called Hollywood life. What happened there?
It's a bit of that. It's a bit of that. I was more attracted to women than men at the time. Okay. But what I have certainly learned now in the last few years is that because I had this thing from my parents that you must never, ever, ever think about transgenderism. you must be a man, you must stick to that. I actually spend my whole life teaching myself how to act as a man. And I can remember teaching myself how to walk as a man. So I actually sort of had to have my legs bowed and my feet sticking out. So I actually looked like a bloke. I used to stand so feminine. So I had to like stand when I was standing, and if I was smoking a cigarette, how to do it in a manly way, everything about it. I was living my life according to the rules that I thought society expected of me. One of those things was getting married.
Right.
And yeah, the marriage that we had, as has been openly said, was not a physically loving marriage. We were just really, really good friends. Yeah. And we still are extremely good friends. And so I was following the society rules of what I should do and that sort of thing. And I just followed it. I was never thinking what was right for me. I was thinking, what does everyone expect of me? And that's how it carried on for many years.
Yeah, and I think that's fairly normal. I worked with a guy about 30 years ago, even before I was born. I like to tell people I'm 27, so 30 years ago. I wasn't born yet I was working full time. Hopefully people don't have calculators out there. But he was about the same age as I am, as I was, and gay. Everybody knew he was gay. He openly talked about it. He had a male gay partner, and everybody knew. And one day we're talking in a meeting, and he said, well, and I was married before, and this is before gay marriage was a thing. So, when I was married before, and I shot him a look like, what? And he stopped mid-sentence, and he said, what are you so surprised for? I said, you just said you were married. He goes, yeah. And I said, but you're gay. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, explain. So I knew him really well. I mean, we ran the company together. He was above me, though. And he said, yeah. He goes, I've been gay my whole life. I knew I was gay as a kid, but in our society, you don't announce that. Years ago, you just marry a woman and carry on. He goes, but you got to be kidding. He goes, it didn't take long for her to figure out this guy wants nothing to do with me. And so, they ended up getting divorced, and obviously, he's led the gay life ever since. So that's fairly normal. At least it was for a long time, and probably is to a degree now.
Absolutely. That is exactly the sort of thing that, that really happened to me. And I didn't understand what I was inside. I was a bit confused. I knew I had this desire. Not a desire. It's just a compulsion to be feminine. And so I just had to spend my whole life being as masculine as I could. I tried everything. I tried shooting guns. I raced car and motorbikes around tracks, and absolutely useless at all of them. I can tell you that. It's terrible. Although I do still ride the motorbike, but I don't race it. I'm just like a granny on a bike. I just love to cruising around. But it was, again, following society's expectations. Yeah, just doing that without having the bravery, if you like, to really see for yourself who you are inside and to act upon it.
Okay. Well, I can tell you, based on research that I've done and reading I've done, tooling around town on a motorbike is much safer than racing on a motorbike. I don't know if you knew that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God. Yes. And when I did last year, when I went, I did a couple of 1,000 miles around France and Spain. Wow. And I bought a motorbike. I hadn't ridden for so many years. So I bought a motorbike, loaded it up with all my gear, and just myself, I just went off. And it was beautiful. It was just so lovely because I could go at my pace. The roads are certainly a lot nicer over than they are in the UK, so that was even better still. But yeah, I'm not into the racing and the speed. I'm into looking at the beauty and the scenery and checking out the villages. And yeah, so I'm pretty safe on the bike, I think.
Safer, healthier. You'll live longer too. It's a lot of benefits. So at some point, did your wife kind of catch on like, hey, there's something different about David here? Or I don't want to get too personal. Just tell us what you want to tell. But how did that come to fruition that, listen, honey, my wife, I really want to be a woman, so we're going to have to kind of cut ties here, or whatever you want to tell us what happened.
Absolutely. No, I'm very open. I'll tell you everything. So during their marriage, the marriage is 24, 25 years. Oh. And the majority of the time it was not intimate. It was not sexual, but we really were and still are, like I say, the very best of friends. Okay. And during that time, she insinuated quite a few times that she wondered whether I was gay. Obviously, I was fighting this femininity inside. But even when we separated, I still, at that time, that was 9 years ago, I didn't actually know I was transgender. I just knew that I wasn't living my life for me. I wasn't living an honest life, and that she deserved to be with someone who loved her as a proper wife. And, you know, I needed to live my life. So we separated. And it wasn't actually until 3.5 years ago, as soon as I discovered I was genuinely trans, and that means obviously having professional medical assessments to demonstrate that, that I was able to tell her. And her comment to me was, do you know what? I always knew there was something about you.
Yeah. Right.
Which is so funny.
Well, the old expression, I don't know who told me this first, you know, women always know. They just might not always say it. They might not formulate words, but they know.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they know. Yes.
Yeah, that's probably a good message for men. Hey, don't try to fool your wife or girlfriend because they know. They already know.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. We won't say, but our intuition is incredibly strong. So don't play with it.
That's right. You know, guy comes home and the wife says, so where you been? Oh, I was at the bank and I stopped at the store, and she can tell instantly. I don't know what she did, but it wasn't those two things. So let's have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Men always change. I've noticed this. When men exaggerate or completely lie, there's a complete change to the voice. The voice seems to go a bit higher. The mouth tenses up more, and the eyes avoid eye-to-eye contact. When you get those three things, something's not right.
Yeah.
But just little things I've observed.
Yeah. Well, either avoid eye contact or flat out stare, right? Like, I'm telling you, I'm telling the truth. I swear, you got to believe me.
Yes. Yeah. And that's when the voice goes high. There's no emotion in there. There's no adjectives in the words that they're using. It becomes clinical. And you're lying.
You're busted, guys.
You're busted.
Right. So she always knew. Now, you said she was not into naturism for herself. Was she okay with you being nude around the house on a regular basis or no?
Initially, yes. But then she became a bit uncomfortable that, you know, we were being too opposite. She was uncomfortable, thought that someone might turn up if I was naked and she wasn't. It really actually genuinely made her feel uncomfortable. And at the time, really, the marriage to her was more important to me than the freedom of being naked in the house. So that is why I then decided to lose the naturism, because the marriage was more important. Our relationship, our friendship, our teamwork was more important, and I wasn't going to jeopardize that. So for that reason, I then abandoned naturism, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that happens a lot too. People make, we talked about compromise earlier. We make compromises in relationships. And sometimes after it's all said and done, we realize, why did I make that compromise? I should have stood my ground, and I should have, whatever. It's easy to say I should have.
Yeah.
In retrospect, but you never know. It's kind of like we said, you go along to get along, or whatever the expression is, and try to keep the peace. Okay, I'll keep my clothes on. That way we won't have to fight about it every night.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes it's worth fighting about it every night, if you believe. But that's neither here nor there. You did what you did, and everybody does what they do because they think it's the right thing. I want to talk about this TV show, and then we'll get back into more of your personal story. The show Naked Attraction. I know it's a UK show, and you said you believe HBO in the United States picked it up, so it's here too. I just haven't seen it yet. But what in the world is this all about? Now, in the article you sent me, there's a picture of looks like it's taken during a scene or during a moment on stage during the show. There's a woman who appears to be the host or hostess. She's fully dressed. And then there's you as David, 100% naked, no question about it. And then there are two women who are also fully naked on TV. This is different for me. So just explain this TV show, what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, when it came out 8 years ago, it was, quite groundbreaking. So the TV show itself is basically a dating show. You have a picker, for which I was, and you have 6 people in pods, and you eliminate one by one until you come down to 2 people that you want to go on a date with. Now, the reason why the show is so different is because you judge the person you want to go on a date with, not by their clothes, their car, their job, or anything like that. You judge them literally just by what you see of the naked body. It's the attraction to the nakedness. So although it is naked, it is nudism away from typical nudism. This is actually sexually based. So it's based on the physical attraction to the naked body. And so, yes, David went on there originally, 6 years ago. Yeah. And he, following the straight male act that he was doing so well, had 6 women to choose from. Okay. And as the pod covers go up, their naked bodies are revealed bit by bit, and then he eliminates them until there are 2 contestants left. And then he has to get naked, and the 2 contestants can then critique his body before he then decides who to go on a date with. The date and everything after that is fully clothed. So it's only the bit filmed in the studio where they are naked.
Okay, so so many questions here.
I know, go for it.
So on this show, you said that the picker selects the person strictly based on nakedness, what their body looks like to them.
Yes.
So there's really no interviewing or getting to know their personality or their values or their likes or dislikes?
No. And you know what? This is really important. And this is something I've said before and I say again. This is where the show fails, because you just cannot date someone based on naked attraction. It does not work. Right. On that particular show, David, chose a woman, and it was purely based on a physical attraction. And it was clear that there's no way they were ever going to get on at all, because you just don't get to know the person. Right. It just completely fails. Naked attraction does not work. Yeah, but it makes great entertainment for the TV. So that's why millions watch it.
Very well said. And I agree with that. That is about as meaningless as it gets. That's why naturism is so great, because that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
matters is your personality, your likes, your dislikes, and how you are as a person, how you treat other people, even how you treat the waiter or waitress at a restaurant. Are you rude to them? If so, bye. I don't really need to be around people like that. I want people who are kind and generous to everybody. And you can't tell that if you're just looking at their naked body and not even talking to them, right?
Exactly. You just cannot tell. There are just 2 elements to the naked attraction where you do get a feeling for the person inside. And this is something that David completely failed when he did it, but where I succeeded when I went on second time. And that is the eyes and the smile. Eyes and the smile tell you so much about a person. And to me, they are by far the most attractive things about any human body, eyes and smile. Mm-hmm. So when I returned to the show 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, that's all I wanted. So as the pods were lifted and I could see more of their bodies, I couldn't wait until I could see the eyes and the smile, because that told me so much more about the person than just the skin and the body they were carrying.
Yeah. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times as the pods were raising, which triggered my memory. Now, I think I've seen photos of this show, not through what you sent me, but so somebody is behind a screen standing, and then the screen from their feet starts to lift up. So you see their calves first, and then their knees, then their hips. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it goes up in sections. The screen's lift. So initially you just have from the waist downwards. And then as a picker, you need to eliminate someone based on your attraction levels to what you see, which of course is grotesquely unfair, because, you need to eliminate someone. So by doing so, it's so important to be empathic and cognizant of how that person is feeling. They're naked on TV and you are critiquing their naked body, the most personal thing about them, and eliminating them from the show. It's a very difficult thing to do. I can tell you, it really is very difficult. You just have to be so empathic. And so then, of course, it then raises up. So you get to neck level and below. So you then have chest, torso. You then eliminate. The final bit then goes to the head, so you can then see at last the eyes and the smile. And then there's also the voice where they speak, so you can hear their accent, how they talk and things like that. But to me, that really doesn't have much attraction, unless, of course, it's Irish or French, in which case I just fall in love instantly.
Understood. So how long does this take? Not just the show that we would see on the screen, but in the studio, you are the picker. You get to see these people naked first. You start with the feet, the calves, the knees, the hips, the thighs, the hips, the genital region, eventually the stomach and the chest and up to the neck.
Yes.
Then the face. But how long from the start until you get to the actual face? I'm guessing it's a fairly significant amount of time.
It is. It typically, in both the shows I did, it was about an hour and a half.
Wow.
From the first recording of the pods lifting up to actually reaching the top. There was a lot of, they have to stop in between to adjust camera angles and the screen movements and things like that. It was just great fun because you just have so much of a laugh. And I just enjoy myself so much I was just making up stories and just entertaining the crew. I did actually forget at one point that the microphone I had was being fed to everyone in the studio. And in the studio, hidden away about 40 or 50 people. And so I started making up stories about the cameraman and said, oh, that cameraman went to my door last night, came to my room last night, bought the jeans, disgusting, how dare he? And of course, they were just laughing away. And actually, it really was such a laugh from start to finish. We all enjoyed it. I could hear laughter from the pods, but I couldn't see them in there. But of course, for the show, they show, because the actual show itself is only about 20 minutes of studio time. And so it tends to be the more serious bits they show and not the joking and joviality that we had going on all the time. That's why I asked the question, like in reality, how long? Because in a TV studio, you mentioned they have to change the cameras, maybe a mic, maybe the lighting, and they have to fit in commercials. So these people are behind these screens, exposed at some level, and then basically all the way before their face for about 90 minutes. That I've never been in that situation where I've just been viewed naked for 90 minutes and not knowing what people are thinking. What were they thinking, do you think, or have they told you? They were not really thinking so much because they were just enjoying the banter that was going on. So, but unfortunately, because of the rules of the show, they were not allowed to make a noise. They were not allowed to speak. Okay. Oh, it'd give it away if I could hear their voice and things. Sure. So all I could see was like shadows rocking around and laughing and hear some sniggering, but they couldn't really make any noises. The studio itself was actually really cold. Thank goodness I had my clothes on for that one. I actually felt so sorry for them. We had these 90 minutes when we were recording, but prior to that, the people in the pods were in the pods for about another hour and a half before that, while they were doing adjustments and setups and just doing video clips for the show. So actually they were there for a very, very long time and they were getting very cold. Absolutely really freezing. At the very end of the last one, when I went and picked someone, as we walked up, her hand was shaking inside because she was so cold. It was a bit uncomfortably cold. Really. So I really did feel sorry for them and so grateful I was the picker. I had the easy job. That's right. The very terrific Sarah Taylor from the UK. You can check her out on social media. She is all over the place. And of course, the show on which she appeared, Naked Attraction, is available out there as well. And we thank Sarah Taylor for all of her time on today's show. On next week's show, episode 68, we will have part 2 of my interview with Sarah Taylor, and also Linda Weber, the president of the American Association for Nude Recreation, will pop in for part 1 of her interview. And again, that's next week, episode 68. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 67 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today.
Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.